Something is shifting rapidly across the United States, and the atmosphere is setting up for a very different kind of week ahead. This is not a routine change. This is the type of pattern where conditions can flip fast, and depending on where you live, the impacts could feel completely opposite. While some regions stay calm and mild, others may be facing snow, ice, heavy rain, or even severe weather concerns. Right now, Jet Weather X is closely tracking a developing stretch of active weather as we move toward the middle of the month. The signals are coming together, and even though details are still being refined, one thing is clear. This pattern has the potential to disrupt travel, daily routines, and power infrastructure if it intensifies as projected. Over the next 24 to 48 hours, weather conditions remain relatively manageable for most of the country. However, this period should be viewed as a setup phase. The real changes begin building just beyond that window, especially as we approach the weekend and move into the following days. Multiple forecast models are now locking on to the idea of a storm system organizing across the central United States and then shifting eastward. The European model continues to show a more aggressive evolution, pulling moisture northward while colder air presses in from the north. On this solution, parts of the Midwest and Ohio Valley could be dealing with snow or ice, while areas farther south and east remain warm enough for rain and thunderstorms. The GFS model paints a similar picture, but keeps the system flatter and slightly more suppressed. This reduces the intensity in some areas, but still supports widespread precipitation. Meanwhile, the Canadian model favors a broader rain footprint across the southern tier, with winter weather confined more strictly to the northern edge of the system. This spread between models tells us that the storm is likely, but the exact track is still uncertain. And when uncertainty exists in a pattern like this, impacts can shift quickly from one region to another. Across the Central Plains and lower Midwest, temperatures ahead of the system are expected to run above seasonal levels during the daytime. Maximum temperatures may feel mild at first, but minimum temperatures drop sharply overnight, especially north of the storm track. That temperature swing is critical because it determines whether precipitation falls as rain, snow, or freezing rain. Rain chances begin increasing steadily through the middle of the week, with probabilities climbing towards 60 to 70% in parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Missouri. Snow probabilities remain lower initially, but increase significantly farther north, especially across Nebraska, Iowa, and northern sections of the Midwest. This is where impacts start to matter more than numbers. Even light snow or a thin glaze of ice can lead to slick road conditions, delayed flights, and slower emergency response times. Overnight travel becomes especially risky as temperatures drop quickly and precipitation freezes on contact with road surfaces. Power concerns also come into focus if ice becomes involved. Ice accumulation on trees and power lines can lead to outages that last far longer than the storm itself. This is why preparation ahead of time is critical, even before watches or warnings are issued. At the same time, the western United States remains under the influence of a ridge. This keeps conditions quiet and warmer than normal, creating a sharp contrast across the country. While the west experiences stability, the east remains vulnerable to repeated disturbances moving through the jet stream. That contrast strengthens the overall system. Cold air draining southward from Canada meets warm, moisture-rich air lifting north from the Gulf. When these air masses collide, the atmosphere responds with lift, stronger winds, and widespread precipitation. The plains will likely see increasing cloud cover and rain chances late in the week, followed by cooling conditions once the system passes. The Midwest remains one of the highest risk zones for winter weather impacts, especially near the rain-snow transition line. The southeast initially leans toward rain, but embedded thunderstorms are possible if the storm track trends north, while the northeast stays cold enough to support snow, particularly inland. It is important to state clearly that a shift of even 50 to 100 miles in storm track can dramatically change local outcomes. Areas expecting rain could end up with snow. Snow zones could shift farther north or south. Ice threats can emerge or disappear with small temperature changes. Because of that uncertainty, JetWeatherX will continue to monitor incoming data closely and provide updates as confidence increases. This is the time to think ahead. Charge devices, review travel plans, and make sure essentials are ready if you live in a region that frequently experiences winter impacts. Avoid unnecessary travel during overnight hours if winter weather advisories are issued. This is not a one-off system. More disturbances are likely behind it, keeping the pattern active even after this storm moves out. Staying informed is key. Subscribe to JetWeatherX so you don't miss important updates as conditions evolve. If you're watching from a city that often sees snow or ice during setups like this, ask yourself now, are you ready if conditions change quickly? As we move deeper into this pattern, attention now shifts to the weekend window and the days immediately after, because this is where impacts could expand and intensify. The atmosphere does not settle down once this first system passes. Instead, it reloads. That means conditions may remain unsettled across large portions of the country, especially east of the Rockies. By the weekend, colder air is expected to press farther south and east. Maximum temperatures across the Midwest, Great Lakes, and Northeast may struggle to recover during the daytime, while minimum temperatures drop well below freezing overnight. That temperature profile supports lingering snow chances, especially in areas that already have snow on the ground. Rain chances remain elevated across the southeast, generally in the 50 to 70% range, but those probabilities come with a caveat. If colder air pushes south faster than expected, rain could mix with sleet or freezing rain, especially in higher elevations and inland zones. Even a small amount of ice can significantly increase the risk of accidents and power disruptions. Snow probabilities remain highest across the upper Midwest, interior Northeast, and parts of the Ohio Valley, where chances may exceed 60% during peak periods. While widespread heavy snowfall is not guaranteed, moderate accumulations over multiple rounds can still create major disruptions, especially when combined with gusty winds. Wind becomes another factor as the pressure gradient tightens behind the system. Gusts strong enough to cause blowing snow and reduced visibility are possible in exposed areas. Travel delays, school disruptions, and slower commutes are realistic concerns as the weekend unfolds. Severe weather is not the dominant threat, but it cannot be ruled out entirely across the southern tier. If warm air surges north ahead of the system, isolated strong storms could develop, bringing brief heavy rain and gusty winds. This threat remains conditional and highly dependent on storm track and timing. From a science standpoint, this entire setup is driven by a trough digging into the central and eastern United States, allowing Arctic air to spill south while moisture rides north along the boundary. This clash is what fuels active weather. The process is familiar, but outcomes vary widely depending on subtle shifts. Uncertainty remains a key theme. Forecast models generally agree on an active pattern, but they differ on how quickly cold air arrives and how far south it pushes. That uncertainty keeps snow and ice lines flexible rather than fixed. For daily life, the biggest impacts may come from timing rather than totals. Snow falling during rush hours, ice forming overnight, or strong winds during peak travel times can magnify even modest events. Preparation matters more than exact numbers. If you live in an area prone to winter weather, now is the time to check supplies, ensure vehicles are ready, and plan for slower travel. Avoid unnecessary trips during periods of freezing precipitation, and stay alert for updates from local officials. Power preparation is also important. Ice and wind together increase the risk of outages. Keep devices charged, have backup lighting ready, and know where to find warming options if needed. Looking beyond the weekend, the pattern does not shut down. Additional systems may follow, keeping precipitation chances elevated into the following week. Some regions may see repeated rounds of rain or snow rather than a single event. This is why staying connected matters. JetWeatherX will continue tracking changes as new data arrives. Updates will focus on shifting risk zones, timing changes, and impact-driven guidance rather than hype. Weather like this demands attention but not panic. Conditions can change quickly, but informed decisions reduce risk. Stay flexible, stay prepared, and stay informed. If you're watching from the Midwest, Northeast, or Southeast, ask yourself now, how would a sudden shift to snow or ice affect your plans? Being ready before advisories are issued can make all the difference. More updates are ahead as this pattern evolves. Subscribe to Jet Weather X because during active weather stretches like this, timing and awareness are everything.